Hey guys, Primal Chaos here, and welcome to the channel. Okay, so you guys are a very diverse crowd of people. I'm going to put that out there. We've got everybody from, people who like blackened hardcore or metalcore or deathcore or whatever, like that sort of stuff, all the way through to people who like, things like Heilung and ethnic sort of things. And what I'm learning is that there is an immense amount of crossover amongst you guys. I was a little bit concerned about branching out and doing a few different things, not the least of which was throwing Dimash into the mix because, he's not typically considered, what you would sort of put into a category of any kind of heavy metal, which is where this channel basically started. So I had some real concerns about doing that. And to be honest, it brought in a huge influx of people, which again gave me a little bit more to sort of concern myself with, because again, now I feel like sometimes I've got to sort of put together song choices to appease certain groups in the masses of groups, right? And so, recently I've done a lot of thinking about that, and I even put a question up asking, what do you guys feel about that when I do some strange and esoteric choices? Does it offend your sensibilities as a metal fan and stuff? And what I've resoundingly got back as feedback is twofold. The first one is there is more crossover than I really understood. There's a lot of people who love listening to extreme metal and then also listening to artists like Dimash because he's such an incredible vocalist. Or, Heilung, or I'm about to do Nitland as well, things like that. And the other side of the coin is that I've realized from your feedback that if I put up something that you guys aren't super interested in, you just don't watch it. And that's 100% a valid choice also. And I realize I also do that myself when I look at other review channels or reaction channels. Often I'll notice there's certain ones that come along and go, it's not for me. And I'll just move on, right? And so that's actually good because it gives me a lot of scope. And I think what I'm going to attempt to do as time goes on is very, very loosely break up my choices into sort of groups of three, where I try to do something that's pretty intense metal wise, like something a little bit heavier. Like say, for example, your Lorna Shore sort of stuff, or, I'm just, all the bands are escaping me, and then, do something a bit middle of the road, and then maybe do an esoteric sort of choice as well. And that way I can sort of have something a little bit for everybody, but also, realistically, look, I'm not here, as much as the community is 100% what I'm here for. It doesn't worry me so much about getting numbers, right? I just enjoy this journey. This has actually been so much fun. It's actually gotten me back into music. I was a little bit cynical with music for a really long time, and discovering all of these new artists has just opened up my eyes to the point where all I want to do now is listen to music and find things to review and react to, which is great. It's becoming a little bit of an obsession, to be honest. But having said all that, look, I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't go back and revisit Dimash. I've done 2 other songs of his, and so the reason is the recommendations just don't stop. And I do like to make this a channel about your choices, right? As much as I occasionally find something, or like, I'll keep hearing about a band and everybody throws out specific songs, but it becomes, there's so many choices that the best thing for me to do is to just jump on YouTube and find whichever the first video is, whatever seems to be the most popular video. And sometimes that's the right choice and sometimes it's not. Sometimes you get a lot of, you really should have started with their older stuff, or, blah, blah, blah. But that's part of the journey too. Like, one thing I always want to bring to this channel is the authenticity. If I say that I've never heard the song or I'm not familiar with the artist, then I'm not. There's no bullshit, right? If, I typically go into these things having done zero research because I prefer it that way. I like to hear from you guys because you guys tell the story a lot more passionately than Wikipedia ever will, And that said, if I ever do songs that I'm familiar with, or if I'm familiar with the band but not the song or whatever, I'll also let you guys know that, because I know for a lot of you people, the authenticity of the reaction is very important. So I've dived in. I've had every single Dimash song recommended to me, obviously, because the Deers, the Dimash army, are they're intense, right? And so again, I've gone in and I've just picked one that seemed like a popular choice. And I have no concept of this song at all as far as like who wrote it or if it's a cover or anything like that. It's called Across Endless Dimensions. I did, to be perfectly honest, I clicked on, watched the first like 10 or 15 seconds of it just to get a feel for it. And to be honest with you, I feel like there's a lot of correlation with this one, with the sort of more, I like to think of it as the musical theatre, although they'll never admit it, genre of power metal, like your Camelots and bands like that, where, I mean, look, if Ghost Opera isn't musical theatre, then I don't know what is. They just do musical theatre with double kicks, and so this, I don't know how the song pans out, but at the start, at the very least, it has that sort of feel that's a little bit sort of like that sort of power metal, from that kind of tangent, where it's a little bit musical theatery, but it's got a dark element to it. Like every Camelot album has that one song that's a piano ballad, that's really dark and rich and has a beautiful soaring vocal. And that's sort of what this sounds like to me. So let's just dive in and take a listen. I'm expecting some wild vocal acrobatics and some intense range, as is typical with this sort of stuff. But okay, before we get that big lift, which I'm sure is coming, let's go back and review that. First of all, I don't know, is this from a movie or a TV series or something as a soundtrack, or are they just really going ham with the visuals in the video clip? It seems like, I'm not 100% sure, is this, Across Endless Dimensions sounds really familiar as a title too. But either way, let's talk about Dimash. Like, so far what we've seen is just a beautiful, rich, low tone. And especially that last low note that sort of came through in that last passage was just beautiful. He sort of can really sit into that sort of low timbre really nicely. A lot of singers, if they typically have a higher range, you can always hear them sort of like trying to push down and relax into those lower notes, where this seems really comfortable for him to sing. I'm going to jump back a little bit, so I don't want to miss that build up. Oh, actually, and also I noticed the scoring is beautiful too. There's French horns and brass section or whatever, trumpets and stuff that comes in through there and gives that swell. It always hits you right here. Okay, hang on. I'm going to go back. Trust me. I know that that's a moment. There's never a good moment to stop in a Dimash song, but if I let it go too long, I'm going to forget about stuff I wanted to talk about. Again, just a beautiful, open sort of, this is all sort of chest voice area. And he's showing off a fantastic range there, but this sounds like the song that they would put during the credits of a big action blockbuster movie. There's definitely something going on there. I'm gonna have to do some research. I'm sure you guys will tell me what this is all about, but let me just jump back a little bit. I don't want to miss. I love when he pulls back into that sort of really delicate part of his voice, because it's always a danger there of your voice cutting out when you go super quiet and pull back like that. But the gamble pays off when you turn it around and bust back out into full voice, because all this is a series of emotional moments strung together. That's what this song is, right? And to be able to sort of pull it back to that really breathy tone and then explode back out into the powerhouse vocals that we know he's capable of. If you're a fan of this kind of music, that's the payoff. That's what you're there for, right? I love all the orchestration. I noticed some electric guitar coming in as well, which gives it a little bit of an edginess, which is kind of nice as well. We'll be right back. Some people refer to Dimash's voice as being magical. And you know what else is magical? Seeing color for the first time. If you're colorblind, if you're one of the 1 in 6 guys or 1 in 200 women who are colorblind, click the link in the description. It'll take you to Enchroma, where you can get an eye test and find out what kind of deficiency you have. And from there, you can pick up some corrective lenses. They've got frames to suit everybody. And if you use the code CHAOS in checkout, they'll give you 10% off. So check it out. And tell them Primal Chaos sent you. Okay, so this was a very interesting song in that I feel like it was written just to be a great soundtrack song, and not necessarily a song designed to show off Dimash's range and all that sort of stuff. It's just a song that he can sing beautifully. And of course, the payoff comes at the end when he blasts out those insane high notes. That sort of scream register that he has where it just powers out this amazing top note. There's no denying that his execution and his emotional connection to the song and everything is always flawless. And this song showcases that to a degree, but while also being just a really good, accessible song for everybody, right? It just has a nice, subtle build across the entire song. They've shown the composition is incredibly mature by allowing the backing track to build slowly over time by adding extra orchestral elements and little textural choices like guitars. Sometimes when those little flutes or woodwind sections come in, it just gives you chills. It does everything perfectly. this is probably a really good song to demonstrate Dimash, because one thing I've noticed in the comments, if Dimash does have any detractors at all, which is very few and far between, there's this weird conflict between listeners where, I mean, the vast majority of people who are watching Dimash are obviously Dimash fans and they love his work. And the amount of rhetoric I get from you guys saying he's so passionate and he's so engaged and locked in emotionally, that, every time people hear his stuff, they feel an intense emotional experience. And you can tell that through the comments. Any of the very few detractors I've heard are people who have, for whatever reason, the exact opposite experience. They say things like, Dimash, he's extremely talented, but he always just seems like he's showing off, right? There's no passion and connection. Now, this debate has been raging for centuries, right? Most notably with guitar players. You'll find people who will listen to somebody like, say, Steve Vai or Jason Becker or, these virtuoso, Yngwie Malmsteen as well. These intense virtuoso performers who can play incredibly fast runs and licks and conceivably have every skill set locked in. They know all the scales and modes. They know exactly how to take whatever rhythm section and convert that into something insane melodically over the top with guitar. Like guitar shredding through the 80s was kind of like the pinnacle of musical prowess, right? And for every one of those people who has every single album of, say, Steve Vai and can play every one of their songs because they've bought every tab book, and the reason they play guitar is to be as good as Steve Vai or Joe Satriani or whatever. Those guys will always be there, and they're super passionate about what that does. And I mean, I watched a video like about a year ago of Steve Vai. He's still innovating. He came up with entirely new techniques for the guitar with this multi-finger bending thing that he came out with, where on first listen, you're like, okay, it's pretty interesting. But then when you really break down what he's doing stuff that hasn't been done on a guitar before. And I mean, what is he, 60? Still innovating, still coming up with creative ways to interact with the guitar. Now, for every one of the people who are intense fans of that genre and can find no fault with those players and what they do, there's always some other guy, and again, their opinion's just as valid, that's saying, but there's no soul in it. There's no soul. I want to hear somebody playing the blues. I want to hear somebody who's speaking through their guitar, lyrically, like how Hendrix used to, or any number of Eric Johnson or, Gary Moore, for example, Still Got the Blues is a song everyone connects with because it feels like the guitar is speaking to your soul, right? But it's this interesting dichotomy. I mean, there's different strokes. There's different people out there who like different things, and there's always going to be. And people shouldn't be at war over that. People should be embracing everybody's tastes and allowing them to flourish, right? But this is just, to me, Dimash is reminiscent of that debate, And it's strange that the people who love Dimash and connect with him on an emotional level, they're not connecting with his virtuosic prowess. They like to geek out on it and talk about it, but they're definitely feeling something. Based on the comments, his music moves them in a very emotional way, right? I'm talking to you guys. I'm not saying them as in these people aren't around. But then, there seems to be people whose, to their ears, it just sounds like performance art as opposed to art itself, right? And that's, to me, that's the interesting thing that sort of drove me to sort of explore Dimash a little bit more, because I want to know what that is. This song in particular it's like emotionally connective material 101. Every single thing you can put into a song, key change, horn swells and things like that. It's all stuff that for centuries has been designed to elicit an emotional response. And then you put over that, over the top of that, somebody who's considered to potentially be the greatest singer in the world, you're going to get this intense emotional connectivity. Another song which I might do at some point as one of my sort of more esoteric choices is a performance that I caught it late one night on TV. I think she sang at the World Music Awards, and I saw the performance for the first time cold, and I was speechless. And it's Lara Fabian singing Adagio. And I think Dimash may actually do a cover of that version as well. Either way, I'll look into that. But again, it's a pitch perfect composition for eliciting that emotional connection and response, performed by one of the greatest vocalists of our time. It does exactly what you expect it to. It connects, right? And you, no matter how hard and blackened your soul might be, if you try to not be cynical about it, you're going to be like, wow, that was an impressive emotional performance, right? So yeah, this is an interesting little pocket of the music genre that has an insane following. But to me, it's more about let's find out what makes it tick. We all know Dimash. Like, you can watch a million reaction videos and vocal coaches reacting who are going to tell you all of the things Dimash does perfectly and all that. But I mean, to me, what I'm more curious about is that emotional connection with the vast ocean of Dears, right? All of for those who are unfamiliar, Dears are what Dimash refers to his fan base as. Yeah, to me, that's what's he doing that's connecting that way. And part of it is his ability, but part of it is something else. And, so that's what I'm more curious about. But anyway, that was really cool. What a cool song. Like, I've heard other stuff of his where the song's been written for him to really display what he's capable of. This is just an incredibly talented singer singing a song brilliantly. That's what this is. So yeah, what a cool song. And hit me up when, I saw it was something on the bottom there about being a soundtrack to something. I'm not familiar with the film or the TV show or whatever, so it'll be interesting to find out more about that. Again, if I've brightened your day at all, feel free to buy me a coffee. I'll put a link in the description. And of course, like, share, follow, subscribe. There'll be more of this sort of stuff, but just be warned, there's also going to be some more heavy stuff as well. And yeah, thank you guys for sticking around. Thank you for engaging as an incredibly diverse and generous community as far as your ability to reach out and passionately inspire me to make great choices like this. So yeah, thank you very much. I guess I'll catch you guys on the next one.